Furnished versus unfurnished rental contract. What are the main differences? Finding a nice apartment or a house will help you feel more at home in France. If you are watching this video, you might be looking for a rental property in France and you already know what a challenge it is. And it is harder in some regions than in others. Bonjour, I'm Giga, a French Seoul expat. I have helped more than 2,355 and still counting expats to find a new home all around the world and especially in France as a global mobility expert. Now I want to share with you essential information that you need to know before signing a rental contract in France. You might want to find a fully furnished and equipped property since you don't want to bother with furnishing it and spending more money. But expanding your home search and looking for both furnished and unfurnished options will give you more chances to find an apartment or a house. You have seen in this other video why you should rent a furnished or unfurnished property in France. And if you're moving to France and don't know where to start, I have prepared a checklist for you. You can download it via the link in the description below. But did you know that there were a few important differences in terms of money but also of contract between a furnished or an unfurnished property? Let's see the important differences, and at the end of the video I will also tell you what elements and furniture a furnished apartment should include to be legally considered as furnished. Now, if this video helped you and you've learned something new, please give it a like, it will help other people to find it. The first difference is the security deposit amount. For an unfurnished apartment, it should not be higher than 1 month's rent before charges. However, the security deposit for a furnished apartment could go up to 2 months' rent before charges. You might be wondering what these charges are. The charges are the contribution to the maintenance of the common area, the elevator, or the concierge salary, for example, if there is one. The amount of common area charges will be clearly indicated in your rental contract, but also on the rental ad. When reading rental ads, you will often see loyer 1,000 euros CC, which means rent 1,000 euros, charges included, charges comprises, or 1,000 euros HC, hors charge, which means 1,000 euros, charges excluded. One insider tip for you now. If the flat that you're renting is furnished or half furnished and it is stated as unfurnished in the contract, the landlord will not be able to deduct money from your security deposit if there are any damages to the furniture, because theoretically there is none in the flat. Also, this means that if furniture needs to be changed, the owner has no obligation to change it if it is an unfurnished rental contract. The second difference is the contract duration. All unfurnished apartment rental contracts should be of 3 years with automatic renewal for the same duration. In the case of furnished property, and if the apartment is the tenant's main residence, meaning that you are officially residing more than 8 months per year in this property, the furnished apartment contract should be 1 year with automatic renewal. There is an exception for students with a rental contract for 9 months with no automatic renewal to match the academic year duration. Don't be surprised if the owner or the agency renting a furnished property asks you if it will be your main residence, as it will have an impact on the owner's tax declaration. Taxes are different for short-term rentals and main residence rentals in France. Then difference number 3, the tenant break clause. Great news for tenants in France, there is always a tenant break clause in contracts as stated in the French law. Break clause is the term mainly used in the UK. I think it is just called the right to give notice in the USA and maybe elsewhere. First, for unfurnished properties, there is a 3 months break clause minimum only for the tenant. And this is the general rule. There is an exception for big urban areas. There is a list of about 30 cities in France where the tenant break clause will drop to 1 month. The largest French cities are usually on the list, but it can change based on the rental market, the supply and demand. So it is still better to check if a shorter break clause still applies to your city of residence. Then for furnished property, the applicable tenant break clause is 1 month, regardless of where the property is located. Then both tenant and owner should give notice with a registered letter by acknowledgement of receipt. If you have a good relationship with your owner, you can let him or her know via a phone call or email, but I would always recommend sending a formal letter. Now, what about the owner's break clause? As a tenant, can you be kicked out of a property? There is indeed an owner break clause, but it is really limited. You should know that the real estate law in France strongly protects the tenant, which also explains why the agencies and the owners are very picky when it comes to choosing their tenants. So for an unfurnished property, which means properties with a 3 years lease, as a tenant you cannot be asked to vacate for 3 years. And even after the 3 years, it will be hard for the owner to end the contract, and this is with a 6 months notice and only 6 months before the term of the lease. The 3 reasons that would allow a landlord to use the break clause would be: first, selling the property, then number 2, the landlord or a close relative is moving into the property, and 3, for serious and legitimate reasons, which means that as a tenant you didn't comply with your obligations. Now, for furnished properties, the same as for the unfurnished properties, the owner break clause option is very limited and very controlled. The notice period, or the landlord's break clause, is 3 months for furnished properties. And when I say furnished, this means that the property is rented as furnished as stated on the lease contract. And these rules only apply if the apartment or the property is your main residence as a tenant and not for a short let like Airbnb rentals or holiday rentals, of course. Here is a table summarizing everything that I just explained for furnished and unfurnished properties. French law specifies clearly the furniture and equipment that should be provided by the owner to be able to rent it as a furnished property. So it is important to make sure that these elements are present during the apartment's initial inspection and fill in methodically the entry inspection report with the agent or the owner. The agencies are always much more thorough at the exit inspection than the entry one, and you want to make sure that the entry inspection report is as similar as possible to the exit one, not to lose on your security deposit. Here is the list of furnitures and equipment that the owner should provide to rent a property furnished as a main residence. First, it will be bedding, including duvet and bed covering, then curtains or shutter in the bedroom or sleeping area, cooking hobs, oven or microwave oven, a fridge and freezer, cookingware, table and chairs, the necessary tableware and silverware to serve a meal, cleaning utensils adapted to the type of home, storage shelves, and lighting fixtures. I hope this video helped you to understand the main differences between a furnished and unfurnished rental contract. Like, subscribe and share if you've learned something new. You can also click on the bell not to miss the next Expat dedicated videos. Merci et à bientôt!